Warning, the following broadcast is offensive, marginally funny, and contains no educational value whatsoever. It is intended for immature audiences only.
Welcome to another edition of That Riot Show. This is your host, Big Fat John.
And Judo, Larry M.
You ever see a steam pipe when too much pressure builds up in a boiler or something? What happens?
Are you saying that's a pipe over there?
Yeah, that blows off steam. Relief valve. The relief valve. Phil's an engineer. He understands. Has a relief valve. Why do you think God gave you a dick? It's to avoid stress, man. He needs a blowjob, but not just any old blowjob.
Isn't that funny? Women cause stress, and then they can relieve it.
There you go.
This is fucked up. Now, work up all your science very quickly. We're going to give you two in 2 seconds. Then work it up. Chlamydia.
Yep.
Okay. 1 in 15. They had an abstinence policy, but 1 in 15 chlamydia.
Yep.
Go.
I'll tell you exactly what it is from a scientific standpoint. I'd be happy to. You know what it is? You can't stop teenagers from fucking.
This is fucked up.
I know I'm getting old. This very week, I've sat on my balls twice.
This is fucked up.
Unfortunately, on this visual medium, you have to put up with this. Look at this. See, Larry, feel that.
No.
Oh, you're gay.
This is fucked up.
Hey, Phil, what kind of time we got left? I can't see it from here. What you got? 10 minutes? Lucky for you folks, there's 10. Whoa, what did you have for dinner? Jesus Christ, that belch.
Jesus Christ.
Oh. Smells like a Mexican's ass. Whoa, what the hell's going on? Oh.
This is fucked up.
All right, welcome to this edition of The Riot. This is your host, Big Fat John.
And the notorious JLM.
There you go. Oh, that's a new one. I like it.
Yeah, there we go, baby.
Trying to get hit with the kids. I love it. All right. This is The Riot. Some sort of show. I'm not sure how to describe it. Larry here and myself, we consider ourselves libertarians, and we like to get to the bottom of things right here. Not that we're any good investigative journalists or anything, Larry.
No, we have no investigatory skills whatsoever.
Zero. We just talk out of our ass until we get tired.
That's it. If you want an investigation, watch the ID channel.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right, so like we said, The Riot, back again. Free speech zone right here, of course. And before we get on to the juiciness that is the show, let's get on with what we usually do, which is pimping, baby. All right. For all your riotous needs, please go to thatriotshow.com, thatriotshow.com. That's our home-based website. Everything you need to know about the show is there. Links, past episodes, podcast, whatever you need, go to thatriotshow.com. Of course, the show is also kind of interactive, so we want you to go to our social media presence. Go to Facebook, facebook.com/thatriotshow, facebook.com/thatriotshow. And you know, Larry, interestingly enough,
Yes.
this very day, I completed registering with Facebook as a political advertiser in order to boost our posts.
Did they shake you down in the process?
No, but it was easier, I think, getting my TSA pre-check than it was being allowed to advertise on Facebook. Now, I'm telling you.
Everybody knows what JLM thinks of social media. So
No, but because of the whole Russian bot thing, you know, it's like they asked for pictures of my IDs, various IDs. I had to send them pictures.
Really?
Then I had to give them a physical address, like the office of the studio here. They sent a letter. Then I had to fill out something on the letter. Then when they sent the letter back, they said, what was it that you filled out? What was the secret code? Then I got to enter that on the side. It is like...
Wow.
Seriously, to get my TSA pre-check, which means I can freely walk in and out of airports, took me half an hour. This Facebook thing I've been working on for almost a month.
Yeah.
So, it's unbelievable. But anyway, so yay for that. We can. Facebook will now allow us to spend our money with them.
Unbelievable. But it's just all because of the
Russian.
The Russian and the congressional. Even before they were, the kid who started, he had to go and he had to meet with them, and they gave him what for. And
it's all about the Russian bots and how they use social media and all that. But anyway, not that I think that'll stop anybody, but fair enough.
Russia sucks.
Anyway, all right. So once you get done with the Facebook nonsense, you can head on over to Twitter, twitter.com/thatriotshow, twitter.com/thatriotshow. You can just go to @thatriotshow. Any time of the day, any day of the week, feel free to reach out. I'm usually on that 24/7. We will respond to any questions you throw at us out there, or on Facebook for that matter. We love the interaction, so why don't you do that? And Larry, last but not least, Phil. Please do the Scrollo podcast, Phil. These are the places right behind me that you can find the show in podcast format. Basically, anywhere podcasts are listed, you can find us. iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, TuneIn, Podomatic, anywhere. Just go check it all out. All fine platforms, and that's why they allowed the Riot on them, Larry.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, that's enough of the pimping. Let's get on with the show. And Larry, sometimes we get kind of lucky, in the sense that topics tend to aggregate themselves as they happen during the week.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? It just works out nicely. So this week, a lot of issues for libertarians involving free choice and the relationship of that freedom of choice within a society. I think there were 3 really good cases and issues around that. The first one, Larry, that we should know about is that Kansas, the state of Kansas, the great state of Kansas, where apparently if you get drafted by the Giants, you get shot.
Nice.
You heard about that, right?
Yeah.
One of the, was it 4th round?
6th round pick.
6th round pick for the New York Giants in Topeka, Kansas. Went to celebrate getting drafted, got shot for being drafted. And his friend, unfortunately, got killed. What was his name? Washburn? Something like that, Chris. Yeah. Whatever. So, a terrible story coming out of Kansas. But anyway, getting back to topic, in Topeka, in Kansas, rather, the state Supreme Court ruled and affirmed a woman's right to get an abortion. Now, Larry, coming out of typically conservative Kansas, this was a bit of a shock. And what's interesting about it is that the way the ruling was worded, it kind of leads experts to believe that even if the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade,
right,
that the right to an abortion would be protected under this ruling within the confines of Kansas. And there are a lot of states in the Union. Kansas, by no means, is the only one with this sort of thing. Obviously, New York, California, these places have that. But it's interesting in that Kansas is what you would consider a red state, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a very conservative, religious state. They usually are good for the Republican vote. Yeah. And, it's not surprising that you have the right for an abortion in New York and California. But when Kansas steps forward, and then it's a sign of the times, in my opinion. I was really surprised by this. I mean, when I heard it, I kind of support it because my view of it is the government, like everything else, should just stay out of it. If a woman wants to have an abortion, that's between her and if the man who got her pregnant is still in the picture.
Right.
Personally, I don't feel I have the right to tell anybody what to do unless I am personally responsible for the pregnancy or I have some level of responsibility. Right. So, I mean, to that extent, I would almost say kudos for Kansas. But, coming out of a really red state, this was a shock.
And you know what's interesting, Larry? If you kind of expand it, yes, I agree with you. It was a shock coming out of Kansas. But also, what's interesting to me is that much like in other segments of the political population, pretty much libertarians also tend to split over the abortion issue.
Right.
Like, you tend to think that, liberals kind of support abortion, conservatives are kind of against it. But I think if you really looked at the numbers, it really is one of the most fractious issues in this country. It's hard to say, well, all Democrats, because you have a lot of Democrats who are Catholics who are anti-abortion. Right?
Well, sure.
And you have a lot of Republicans, especially the Northeastern liberals, who kind of carry what Larry's opinion is, which is like, just get the state out of it and we don't give a shit, right? But libertarians also, you might tend to think that it's a do what you want with your body.
Effectively pro-choice.
Effectively pro-choice point of view. But the Libertarian Party is actually quite split on the issue, from what I could tell.
Yeah.
There's many prominent libertarians who consider themselves pro-life, as well as there's many libertarians who are like, well, it's a woman's choice; she can do whatever she wants, as long as you don't force me to pay for it. Like that little caveat even for the pro-choicers in the libertarian movement, is what distinguishes them, say, from traditional liberals. It's like, you want to get an abortion? Great. Go pay for it. I'm not paying for it.
Right.
I tend to be a little bit less on that side as Larry. This is actually where one of the few things we split on from a libertarian point of view. Because I don't view it as an issue of the woman's body, Larry, and her having the right to do what she... Look, I've said it before. Go do black tar heroin for all I care. Take as many opioids as you want. Grab fentanyl and shove it up your ass for all I care. I don't care about that. What I kind of get hung up on is, since libertarianism is the philosophy of the individual and individual rights, we understand there's going to be conflicts of individuals, right? Well, like, whose rights trump? Like, I may have the right to free speech. He has the right to be able to sleep at 2 in the morning. Which right, like, if I'm outside your house screaming, yeah. Like, which right trumps, right? Obviously, so, you know. And for me, Larry, I've always said is, when is that fetus considered an individual with all the rights ascribed to an individual? Okay? Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't think that line should be shifting depending on the science of the day. Mm-hmm. Right? So, you know, 30 years ago, viability before 7 months was kind of rare. Right? So that's why you had these abortions that would be like, oh, until, 40 weeks or whatever it was, I forget, you know, or no, not 40 weeks.
No, 10 weeks.
10 weeks, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, but that was based on, well, this is when we could, like, theoretically keep a fetus alive if we did a C-section, right? But now the technology is better and better. And that line's being pushed back to 4 months, 3 months in some cases, right? And if that's the case, does that mean your morality goes back to 3 months? Yeah. You know, so to me that's always been a problem, because are you saying your morality is tied into your science? Typically speaking, it shouldn't be, right? Yeah. So from my opinion, I don't know when that fetus is an individual. Nobody does, really.
It's unknowable.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to use the word soul, because I think that infers all the religious nuts and anti-religious nuts. I'm not going to say soul. But when is that an individual? I don't know. Nobody knows. So in that case, I would always defer to caution. The least aggressive of the two options. So yeah, it is a woman's right to do what she wants with her body, but I think you have to look at which individual is potentially harmed the most, and to me that's always the fetus. So I tend to be more pro-life based on that.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think it aligns with libertarian values. But then again, listening to Larry, I think his point of view aligns with libertarian values as well.
It's not the business of the government.
Definitely
It's not my business unless I caused the pregnancy. So if some woman tomorrow in Toledo or Topeka or wherever wants to have an abortion, why am I getting involved in this? Why do I have anything to say about it? I have no right to stop her. Right. The federally funded thing, that's always a legitimate point. The liberals obviously think everything should be federally funded. Right. But yeah, I would like to get the money out of it. This seems to me that if you want something, you should pay for it. Now, of course, the counter to that will be, well, now you're discriminating against poor people and poor women. They always say that. And they can't afford it. And then rich people and middle class, they can still afford it anyway, and blah, blah, blah. But look, as far that's the liberal argument. As far as I'm concerned,
hangers only cost $1.29.
Oh, wow.
Phil, don't make that face. Phil, it's a joke. Phil, come on.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. Relax.
Everybody knows Quack Doctor, 99 cents. But at any rate,
yes.
This is not my business unless I'm somehow involved. That's my point of view. If you want to do this tomorrow, yeah, okay, I'm staying out of it.
All right. So
as far as the fetus, that to me is an impossible argument, because, like you said, I don't know when it's a human being. I mean, obviously, once it gets out, it is, but I don't know when. And I'm not going to get a pussy. I'm not going to waste my time thinking about it, because if I'm not responsible for it, then I don't have to take the moral or ethical or even the economic impact of any of this. It's not my business.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I'm going to stay out of it. Everybody needs to mind their own business and let people live their lives.
Fair enough. Okay. I think all of us could do more of minding our own business. But let me ask you this, theoretically. How would you resolve or go about resolving the issue of woman wants an abortion, father of the child doesn't?
Yeah, that's very complicated.
And let's assume they can't work it out.
I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't have an answer. That's between them, and I don't know what a couple would do in a situation like that. That's a very difficult situation because you have the man telling the woman, I want you to have the baby and raise him, or we'll raise it or something, and she wants to terminate the pregnancy. I don't know. Maybe he could punch her out. I don't know what the solution to that is. That sounds like something that would wind up in court.
Of course,
and be even more of a mess. And you get some asshole lawyers involved.
Well, what's interesting is,
but I don't have an answer to that.
In the liberal states, this has come up.
Oh,
definitely,
sure. Oh, yeah,
definitely. Like I know there's been New York cases where the father has been like, "Hey, I'll raise the kid.
Right.
You don't have, you're not required to raise it, whatever." And it always in New York, I know, and I'm sure in other states, it always falls to the woman saying like whether she wants to carry or not. So it's an interesting thing. It's not as cut and dried as most people think. And it doesn't come down to religion or non-religion. There's reasonable arguments to be made without invoking religion.
So what would you do if the woman didn't want and the man wanted to keep it?
Personally, I think that requires, it's not cut and dried like you said. And I think unfortunately, you might have to rely on the judge to decide, as ironic as this sounds, what's in the best interests of the child.
Right.
Because you may say, well, if one option is that there is no child, okay, how would you ever rule against that? But I mean, like, let's assume the father is a piece of shit, right? Or is a transient traveling man, but he wants his kid. A judge could look at that and go, well, reasonably speaking, you're not going to raise that kid. And you're going to expect her to raise it, or you're not doing it for yourself, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But I think also there is the case of a potential father who's, I really wanted to have a son, and and blah, 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 and I'm more than happy to raise him, and I'll pay for her medical coverage, and it might be that in that case, theoretically, you could have a judge rule for the father and say, okay, if you're willing to cover her expenses, any potential pain and suffering. I mean, it works. We do it for everything else, right? We do it for divorce. We do it in property dispute cases, right? We do it everywhere. There's a winner and there's a loser, unfortunately. In this particular case, the stakes are obviously higher because you're talking about potential life being involved here and the state, really coming down on that. But look, I'm not going to pretend like I'm Solomon here. I don't have the
have the baby and abort the parents.
There you go. Maybe have the baby and get blown.
That's it. Get blown by the baby.
That's nasty.
My God.
You nasty.
God, you would think taxation is that. Oh my God.
All right. Let's move on to the next one, sort of along the same lines here. Now, let me see where this was. I think this was in Colorado. But basically, what's going on around the country, Larry, is that there's a lot of these things called conversion therapies going on. All right. Now, for conversion therapies, for those of you that don't know, conversion therapies are where people who are gay or think they're gay or are thinking they're turning gay or have been infected by the gay virus, take your choice. They don't want to be gay no more. So what do, Larry? They go to this gay conversion therapy where they basically, let's face it, try to pray the gay away, as the old joke goes, right? So there's these people, they're convinced that if they go to these camps and these therapy sessions, Larry,
yes,
they get turned straight.
Yeah.
Now, by and large, the science on this is flimsy at best. And more than likely, even people who say they've been turned away from being moes, that they end up going back to sucking dick very quickly. Okay?
Yeah. Because you just can't get enough.
Yeah, or munching rug or carpet, whatever. Whatever the proclivity was that got you there.
Yeah.
You're going to turn back to the recidivism rate.
Yeah, the going to conversion therapy is like just a vacation.
Like honestly, it's a lot like Alcoholics Anonymous. Where. It's really proven that over the long haul, Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't work any better than anything else.
Yeah, drug rehab.
Right.
How many people leave them and they go right back to making drugs?
But the truth of the matter is we don't prevent people from going to AA. We don't prevent people from going into drug rehab. But there is this movement to ban and make conversion therapies illegal, Larry. So if these things are illegal, first of all, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Should they be illegal?
Should conversion therapy be illegal?
Yeah. No.
Absolutely not. Look, if you want to go to conversion therapy, go to conversion therapy. I'm going to tell you that it's not going to work. That's my opinion of it. My opinion of it is if you're gay and you go to conversion therapy, you're going to pray, you're going to do some silly stuff.
Right.
They're going to quote the Bible at you, and you're going to go, and when you come out, you're going to go right back to your lifestyle. Because there are people in the world who are gay. All right, just like, for instance, suppose they had conversion therapy for heterosexuals.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, you can send me anywhere. You can send me to a brothel of Greek men,
delicious Greek men,
delicious with dripping, You can say, and let me tell you something. When I come out, my desire for women is right there. It's not going anywhere. Yeah, I don't believe that if you're a homosexual, going and hanging out with religious freaks and praying to Jesus is going to make you want less cock.
This is Larry trying to suck cock before that conversion therapy. And then after that conversion therapy, this is Larry trying to suck cock. Yeah, it's just not working for him. Yeah. But yes, and I think that's the point, right? It doesn't work. For the most part, it doesn't work. It's not likely to work. But then again, I don't think it's anyone's business, truly, in this case, to say you can't go to conversion therapy.
Right.
And that's the key, because unlike, say, something else, you're only affecting yourself. You're not affecting anybody else.
Right.
There's no drugs involved. And I think for the most part, it's not funded by state or federal. I could be wrong about that, but I think for the most part, it's not. But Larry, the further push by these advocacy groups, and they've been successful in about 16 states. And Colorado is the next one considering whether or not to pass legislation about this, which is that they're trying to ban it for minors, meaning that the parents of young cocksuckers should not be sent to conversion therapy. Okay. How does that change the equation? If you're talking about parents sending their under 18 kids to be converted.
Yeah, that's tough. I would normally just defer to the parents.
Right.
Say if they can do what they want with their kids. But I would tell the parents of a gay child that if your child is gay, they're gay. All right, they're probably not doing it to annoy you or because they think it's weird or different. I mean, look, I can tell you, all joking aside, I can tell you from growing up in New York and growing up in the village, I can tell you that people who are gay, they're just gay. This is it. This is who they are. Okay, it's not a chemical imbalance. It's not. It's a very small percentage of the overall population, but you know what it is? There are people who are gay, and if your kids are gay and they're showing signs that they're attracted to the same gender, I think you should love them and embrace them. I really do. Conversion therapy is nonsense. This is the project of religious fanatics like Michelle Bachmann, who ran for president on the Republican side. Her and her husband had a conversion therapy, pray the gay away. And, there was an article, I think in the Times, and their level of success was like almost zero. Like, you have to realize that the people who are gay, they're gay. And I mean, to me, it's kind of strange that this is still such a big deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the problems of society, the long-term effect of our economy, our debt, the Russians, the North Koreans, all the shit that's going on in China. I saw something on 60 Minutes last night about the amount of fentanyl coming into this country from China. I mean, what I consider to be real problems. And the fact that, John might try to fuck me, it's not a real problem. It might. I mean, if people are gay, I just wish we could get to a point where just ignore it and leave them alone. Because I remember when you first really started hearing about the gay community, kind of breaking out 70s, 80s, there were all these silly stuff that came out, and this is what kind of annoys me. Oh, they're recruiting our children. And they're trying to recruit our children. Where's the proof that they're trying to recruit your children? Then there was, you can't have them in the Boy Scouts or this and that because they might be pedophiles. And you do realize that 99% of rapists, pedophiles are officially what you would call heterosexual. They're almost none of them are gay people.
Well,
they're fucked up, but
that's
the
not
whole thing of
focus.
Thing of focusing on the fact that there are gay men and gay women, it's such a phenomenal waste of time.
I don't disagree with you necessarily, but at the end of the day, you kind of dodged the question a little bit. You did say you would.
What's the question?
You would try to persuade parents not to do it and to just accept their children.
Oh, okay. No, if you're a parent and you want to send your child to this, you have the right to send them.
Okay.
I think you're going. I personally think you're going to damage them and make things worse. But if this is what you want to do, it's your child. I feel sorry for the kid, but you're the parent, and until they're 18 or officially they're adults and they can make these decisions legally on their own and they're free of your control, and then until then, if they're 14, they're 15, fine. They're your kids. Do what you want.
Cool. Now let me ask you this, and it's a little bit of an expansion, I guess, but so now you're saying, okay, the parents want to send their kids to it, but what about those cases where people have come back from these therapies and said, really, I haven't engaged in any homosexual activity for the last 15 years, 20 years?
No, I covered that. There are some, but it's so small. It's such
it's a small percentage.
I mean, look, I could cite you one of my favorites. I was talking about Bill Maher's Religulous movie, where he makes fun of religion. And in the movie, he goes down to Florida, and he meets this guy, he's kind of a good-looking guy, who says he used to be gay. And he's married to a woman who used to be a lesbian. It's in the movie. And Bill Maher goes, so you used to be gay, and your wife used to be a lesbian, and you've got 3 kids. He goes, right. He goes, and the jury's out on that. And you have to realize, now, according to him, religion turned him around, and he goes, I'm a person who dealt with homosexuality, and now he's straight.
But
his wife is now straight too. But I'm telling you right now, if you look into this, because
the recidivism rate is very high.
Yeah,
very high.
The people they go right back to being gay because they're gay.
But what's really interesting about it is when you hear people like our mayor here, Bill de Blasio, his wife, and I'm not making this up. For example, the LGBTQA whatever community is pretty upset at her, not because she's intolerant, mind you, but because she says, I used to be a lesbian, then I decided not to be anymore. And then she got married to this guy, and they've had 2 or 3 kids or something like that. Yeah. 2 kids. And then you look at someone like McGreevey, the former governor of New Jersey, right? Who ended up coming out of the closet or being outed, but had led this life where he was married, he had kids. Apparently his wife did. It wasn't one of those arranged things where, like, she really thought she married a straight guy, and then she ended up, I believe, I could be wrong here, suing him because he came out as being gay and all that. She was like, well, it's deception, it's fraud, and all this. Like, that poor woman thought she married a straight guy. So then how do you, I would ask people to say, how do you explain those cases where clearly these people, it almost seems like they're making decisions almost on whether to be gay or not? Yeah,
that's
weird,
That's
right?
very interesting. What it could be, I mean, you have to realize, look, you still have people who, if they feel that they're gay and they've decided that it's a bad thing and that it's like a dirty thing or it's a wrong thing. And part of the way that, you used to hear people used to fight it was, maybe I'll be religious or maybe I'll be straight and that'll turn me around, because you do have a portion of gay people who think that there's something wrong with themselves.
Right.
And that their way of maybe dealing with this, well, I'll get married, I'll have some kids, and it'll come to me like eventually. In the case of McGreevey, I'm not quite sure what happened. I do remember when he was governor of New Jersey, and one of the first things that got him into trouble is his pick for the head of Homeland Security for the state of New Jersey was a gay Israeli guy who he was sleeping with. And,
well, that was part of what outed him.
Yeah, right. But actually, I mean, I don't know if that's what you call being a latent homosexual, or the only thing I could rationalize from that is I know there are people who they grow up and they have these feelings and they think it's wrong, and they start finding ways to fight what's wrong, but possibly religion, possibly a beard, or doing something, something heterosexual to turn themselves around. I mean, it's I feel sorry for them because it's difficult, because nobody feels funny about being straight. You don't think about it. You don't worry about
being
it.
straight's normal.
Normal. Okay.
Yeah, no, but you're right. It is that weird sort of thing because I to this day, I think people think that it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that homosexuality is or is not, say, genetic, and I don't think that it has. I think there's people who lean one way or the other on the issue, but to me, if it comes down to being a choice, I think that's even better because you're saying like, hey man, I'm just making my choice. I'm free to make a choice. So I have no problem with someone saying I choose to be gay. I think it's a little more problematic for them if they say I'm born this way, personally. Mm-hmm. Because if you say I'm born this way, you open yourself up to people saying, well, it's an illness.
Right.
It's some sort of defect.
Yeah.
But if you just say to someone, this is the way I want to live, then they could go fuck themselves in America. We're Americans. We can choose how we want to live.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, it's always an interesting point on which way that bends. Either you're born that way or you want to be that way. So that's interesting as well. Now, making another quick sort of cut over here, there was on a recent Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. People who watch this show know that we're big Joe Rogan fans. He's really one of the better interviewers, and he tackles all sorts of topics. He had Adam Conover from a show called Adam Ruins Everything. And this guy, Adam Conover, on his show goes and he debunks accepted myths like rules of thumb and things like that. And he debunks them. And he comes off like he's this erudite, sort of intelligent sort of guy that knows the ins and outs. So he was on Joe Rogan to discuss the issue of transgender people and hormonal changes, sex reassignment surgeries, and things like that. Then the issue came up on whether minors should be allowed to undergo these treatments, and furthermore, should parents be forced to accommodate their minor children who want to transition. Now, Adam got destroyed in this. He came off like such a blithering idiot. Yeah. He just kept saying, well, I'm no expert, but here's what my trans friends tell me, that they knew at 5 they were the wrong sex, and they needed to get reassigned right away. And Joe Rogan's point was very simple, Larry. It was like, the human brain is still forming at the age of 25. That's why we don't want to lower the voting age anymore. At 18, it's already too low. That's why we don't let people under 18 make their decisions, their own minds about smoking, drinking, joining the army, things like that.
Yeah.
So the interesting issue here was, I'll ask you, now we've talked about two cases. We talked about the abortion case where we're saying the government's stepping in to protect abortion rights. We're talking about conversion therapy where we're not sure if the government should come in and protect people from doing what they want to do, which is to go to conversion therapy. Now this one is, for example, should the parents of a 5-year-old start giving him hormone treatments to satisfy his mental illness, which makes him think he's a girl? And by the way, I think it's a mental illness, okay? The same way if a person thinks they're a dog, we say, get to a psychiatrist really quick, right? If a man looks at you and says, I'm a woman, and he's being serious, he has mental issues. Doesn't mean that he shouldn't be allowed to live like a woman, but the point is, something's wrong up here. The same way, like there's people who walk around on all fours, they think they're dogs, or they think they're cats. There's adult people who wear diapers because they want to be treated like infants. We've all seen this, okay? These are fetishes or they're mental illnesses. So that's what I consider trans to be. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say you're an idiot, fuck you, and this and that, but I consider it a mental illness. But Larry, to the point of, should minors be accommodated in their desire to take hormones, girls transitioning to boys, boys transitioning to girls, being pumped full of testosterone and estrogen, and in some cases getting the surgery to, change around their genitalia?
Yeah. No.
Like, what's the case there? Should the government step in to support that, or to say no, it's the parents' decision?
Well, ideally the government wouldn't step in, but assuming that they're going to. Look, I think that if you're really talking about children that young, I think they don't know what they're talking about. And the parents who are humoring this, I think they need to take a step back and really think about what they're doing, because once you start changing body parts and something, you've done it. This is it.
And even the hormones are fucked up.
Yeah, but in for a penny, in for a pound. Once you start taking off your penis and this is serious stuff, and it's going to have an even more long-lasting psychological effect on the person. If you're talking about your child is doing this, I'm telling you right now, they're not old enough to know what they're talking about. I understand they may be having some feelings or some desires or some proclivities for something, but I don't think you should. I think you're really rushing into it way too fast. If you're already giving hormones, estrogen, contemplating surgery, and doing things like this, I would ask you, despite how your child may feel, I would argue, hold off, wait till they get older, see how this pans out a little bit, and if they still feel the same way when they're teenagers or something like that, okay.
Well, see, to me, I agree with you, by the way. They shouldn't be fucking around like that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I would even argue that the same reasons that the conversion therapy shouldn't be allowed, like we've talked about, in the sense that it doesn't work, the same thing with the whole trans issue. There's this whole field of study now called trans regret, where and it's mainly men. Some transition to women, but mainly it's men who transitioned into being women. That 10, 15, 20 years go by, Larry, and they're like, I'm still depressed. I thought becoming a woman would solve my problems, and it really hasn't. And I chopped off my dick and balls, and oh my God, what did I do? And these people end up committing suicide at a higher rate than the general trans population does, which is high to begin with, So this trans regret is actually very real, Larry.
Yeah.
And I would argue, like Larry, I think you made a great argument. These kids don't know what they want really. Let them grow into it. And 10 years, let them live to be gay at that age if they want to dress like a girl and stuff. But when you're talking about hormones, you're talking about surgery and all that, no, beyond the point of no return. But then again, I guess you could also apply the same argument to being gay at that age. Like, why wouldn't a parent say, I'm going to do everything to not have them be gay while they're living under my roof, and I'm the one making decisions for them.
Yeah.
Like, really, what's the difference between?
Well, I wouldn't encourage them not to be gay. I would just say, look, I understand that you have feelings, but you're not developed enough to know really what your situation is. So I wouldn't encourage them to be gay, straight. I would just let it pan out and play out. And look, if you're telling me that this has to be done right away, you got to start treatments and hormones, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Talk about jumping the gun. Just relax, let this play out. I understand you feel your child may feel a certain way, but you know what? You don't need to do this right away. You need to slam on the brakes. As far as gay people, that's the same thing. Look, if your kid's gay, they're going to be gay 10 years from now. If they're truly gay, and it's an interesting point. I just thought of it. I don't know why I didn't think of this before. When you were talking about the trans people and the decisions they made, I actually do know somebody who's trans, which is very interesting. I just thought about it. The person who used to do my mother's hair for a very long time.
Fabulous!
And he sure was. And I won't give his name or anything, but became a woman when he was already an adult and stayed that way for 40 years and was very happy. And that's it. And just later on, 80, something, passed on, and that was it. But you see, like that to me is okay because he made the decision when he was definitely an adult. This is like whatever decision I think he made was like he was like already 30 years old or something. Yeah. This is an informed person. You know where you are. I think when it comes to children, you have to be very, very careful. I understand that there are children who are going to be gay or trans. That's fine. But I think rushing into it, you know what it is? I know it sounds a little strange. It almost has like a trendy feel to it.
Oh,
they're who think like, oh, our kid's like trans. You know what? Don't push them any which way.
Well,
their sexuality will play out. Let it play
Well,
out.
It's interesting because there's actually a TV show, and I just remembered this just now. I think it's on one of those TLC, one of those reality channels on cable. I think it's called My Name is Jazz or Growing Up Jazz or something like that.
Oh,
Jazz, not Jizz, although it could apply. And it's about this kid. Look, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but this kid looks like 10 or 12 years old.
Okay.
And it's a boy, I think, transitioning to a girl, and the parents are supportive, and he's getting hormone treatments and letting his hair grow, and and they're talking about all sorts of surgeries and hormone treatments, and things like that. And he's got the supportive parents that want to see him transition to being a woman. And I look at it, and honestly, I view it as child abuse. I view it as televised child abuse.
Okay.
That's all I could think about when I see that. It's like, you're allowing someone who really doesn't understand what they're doing. And like, it's like saying if you're a parent, it's like when your 10 or 12-year-old says, I want to be in the army now. I want to be Superman. I want to jump off a building and see if I can fly. Well, yeah, but as a parent, you're like, you can't fly. I'm not going to let you jump off a 5-story building. I'm not going to let you crash through a window.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's your job as a parent to protect your child from this shit. So to say that, and I would even disagree with you that an 18-year-old needs to start taking hormones and stuff. That's the worst time. Because no matter what gender you are at 18, no, but I'm saying as a teenager or whatever, I wouldn't even say at that point. I think you should be, like the cutoff age to me should be somewhere in your mid-20s. Especially if you're asking somebody to pay for it.
Yeah, but that argument won't work because you're at 18, you're a recognized.
Agreed. But I'm saying
I was
personally,
saying like if someone's like 5 or 6,
no.
7 years old, I mean, this is ridiculous. Let them just grow up and be who they're going to be. And again, at 18, 19, if they still feel that way, you can start doing treatments or whatever. You have time to make that. But if you're doing this with like a 10-year-old kid or something, yeah, and I agree with John's point to the extent that I see what he means about the abusive nature of it. Because that's how I look at a parent sending their kid to conversion therapy.
Yeah. You're
sending your kids somewhere where they probably don't want to be. They're going to be very unhappy. The people there tend to be very rigid and stringent with their rules. It's, you need to take care of your kids a little bit better. But I mean, to me, if your kids are showing these signs of gay or trans or whatever, you know what? You don't do anything special for them if they're heterosexual. Don't do anything special for them.
What's interesting is,
let them grow up, and if it turns out that this is really who they are, then accept them.
Well, what's interesting is what you pointed out, which is, I think a lot of this is also the result of trending and what's trendy, right? Because I think a lot of this is stupid parents, millennial parents, sorry if I'm using the wrong generational phrase, but you know what I mean, who grew up under social media, who are trying to be woke 24/7. And you have shit like this. Like, you see parents like, we won't refer to the baby by any gender pronouns until it's old enough to pick for itself. Pick what for itself? Like, seriously, as a parent, pick what? You're not going to use gender pronouns for your child until they're 3, 4, 5 years old? What are you, fucking crazy? I don't understand that. You know what I mean? Or we're going to encourage our child to consider being gay or straight. Like, can you imagine you've got a 5-year-old and you're like, now, Sonny, you need to make a choice. Do you want to stick your pee-pee in like a nice vagina or a dry asshole? Like, seriously, you're expecting a 5-year-old to come up with those decisions and to set its life's path for itself at 5, at 6, at 7 years old?
Yeah.
That is child abuse, but that is the result of the trendiness we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's why you have kids who, in my opinion, grow up, and as they're growing up, any stray thought that comes into their mind becomes nurtured by their parents, regardless of how stupid it is.
Right.
Right? So when we were growing up, we may have had, look, I grew up reading Soldier of Fortune magazine. And believe me, when I was 10, 12 years old, I thought I needed to figure out how to get myself an Uzi and head to the jungles of Uganda to fight with the freedom fighters, right? Because that looked cool to me, right? And I would buy these magazines and read them and dress up like a Soldier of Fortune, Larry, until my father slapped some sense into me. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what happens. That's what happened to these. You know what I mean?
You have to be careful.
There's that line between, and again, it's very fuzzy, and there's that line between like, well, I want to be an astronaut. Shut up and be an accountant. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's the difference between like being a boy and saying, you know, I felt kind of frilly today. Are you being trans? Do you want to be trans? Let's get you some estrogen treatment. Maybe that'll help. You know, do you want to suck a dick? Let's go suck a dick to see if you like it or not. You know,
because you don't, at that age, you don't know.
Of course.
Because I'm 55 and I would pick the dry asshole.
There you go. He doesn't know enough to do like,
that's it.
or anything like that.
No. I'm a dirt road motherfucker.
So what's interesting about what we talked about so far, Larry, is that we kind of migrated from, we had a Supreme Court ruling in Kansas to praying the gay away, which is like halfway, we don't know whether or not it's good. And then you've got the last one, which is like child abusing parents feeding their 5-year-olds hormones so they could be trendy. But so it was an interesting progression of topics. Okay, Larry, though, right now, I think it's time we get set for the latest craze sweeping the nation, the greatest game show to date. Who said it? That's right, it's time for Who Said It, the great new segment. And of course, Larry, we're giving massive credit to Phil for coming up with the idea of segments. But yes, Who Said It? Now, the game show goes like this. I'm going to quote 2 famous people in recent history. Larry here will try to determine who said it. The 2 historical figures today, Larry, up first for consideration, Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin, former Soviet strongman, Larry.
Yeah.
And next up for consideration, John Maynard Keynes. John Maynard Keynes, founder of the general theory. Was he a Nobel Prize winning economist? And basically the guy who invented how liberals steal and spend our money. Okay? So, Stalin versus Keynes. Okay. Larry, here we go.
Okay.
First question. Ideas shape the course of history. Ideas shape the course of history. Who said it? Joseph Stalin or John Maynard Keynes?
I'm going to say Keynes.
Larry says Keynes. And Larry's correct.
Ding.
In fact, it was John Maynard Keynes. Ideas shape the course of history. So there you go. All right. Let's go on to the second quote. Capitalism is the astonishing belief that the nastiest, most vile motives of the nastiest and most vile men somehow or other work for the best result in the best of all possible worlds. Who said that? Joseph Stalin or John Maynard Keynes?
I'm going to go with Commie Joe.
Larry says Commie Joe. That is incorrect. That is, in fact, from John Maynard Keynes, who was describing how basically he thinks capitalism sucks.
Oh, wow.
All right. So there you go. Okay. Next up. Who said it? Stalin or Keynes? Education is a weapon whose effects depend on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. Who said it? Stalin or Keynes?
I'm going to go with Stalin.
He goes with Stalin on that one, ladies and gentlemen. And he is right. Joseph Stalin did say that, in fact, about education. All right, so Larry, trying to keep up here. Okay, next one. Who said it? Stalin or Keynes? We must finally come to the conclusion that of all the precious capital in the world, the most precious capital, the most decisive capital, is human beings. Who said that? Stalin or Keynes? Keynes, rather. Who said it? Stalin or Keynes, Larry?
Keynes.
And in fact, it was Commie Joe.
Joe.
Commie Joe.
Son of a bitch.
You would think he wouldn't give two shits about human beings.
Yeah, that's exactly what turned me off. And I was like, oh, it's probably that dumb movie.
All right. All right, here we go. Who said it? Stalin or Keynes? The forces of the 19th century have run their course and are thus exhausted. Who said that? Stalin or Keynes?
Keynes.
Yes, in fact, it was John Maynard Keynes who said that. All right, Larry, let's go for our last quote of the game show. So far, you're running about 50-50. Let's get to the meat of it. Which one? Which way should I go? I don't know which way to go here. Okay. When, therefore, we enter the realm of state action, everything is to be considered and weighed on its merits. Changes in state actions have received the same denunciations from the absolutists of contract, who are the real parents of revolution. Who said that? Stalin or Keynes?
I don't know if revolution is a trick, but I'm going to say Stalin.
And you know, Larry is incorrect. He was, in fact, fooled by the word revolution. That was John Maynard Keynes. And Larry, once again, thank you for playing along. Who said it? But then again, as we wanted to show, really, John Maynard Keynes, the father of Keynesian economics, really was basically a fucking communist. Okay, Larry, that was a fun edition of Who Said It.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? A lot of people really don't realize how really authoritarian and communist based Keynes' theories are and his initial thoughts. I mean, he recanted some of it right before he died, but I think the people who are hardcore Keynesians really don't understand how much they are aligning with people like Stalin.
Yeah, he was the ultimate statist, economist.
Yeah.
He really, you have to realize that the people who think that the government should run the economy, it's predicated on two things. Number one, they just think the government should do it. You should pay lots of taxes. It's like the nanny state. And secondly, because they don't trust capitalism. They don't trust business and profiting. And, they, like one of the quotes was they think it's just a handful of greedy guys who are doing well while everybody else is taking it in the air. So
well, it requires a central authority.
Right.
It doesn't mean necessarily despotic, but all central authorities become despotic.
Yeah, but it has to be, right.
Yeah, eventually.
Ultimately, it's...
All right, but like I said, fun game and hopefully educational.
Yes.
There you go. Fun and educational. All right, let's move on to the next topic. You know, recently, Larry, Donald Trump hosted Twitter owner and executive CEO Jack
Dorsey.
Dorsey, I forgot his name. Thank you, I was blanking there for that. Jack Dorsey. So Jack Dorsey paid a visit to the White House. You know how Trump is concerned how social media is anti-conservative. As if Trump's conservative. But anyway, so Dorsey went over there and had a little meeting with the president to discuss whatever it is they discussed. But what's also interesting is that later in the week, Dorsey had to call Representative Ilhan Omar. Omar, is that how you pronounce it? The crazy Muslim lady, freshman House representative who got elected the same band with AOC. It seemed like it was elect a crazy broad day in a couple of states.
Yeah.
So anyway, of course she was the one who tweeted out, and was caught on tape saying, well, something happened on 9/11, and it made it appear that she was being very flippant about what happened on 9/11, possibly coming off as an apologist for the Muslims and the Muslim terrorists, rather, on 9/11. This, in turn, caused Trump to tweet out a video. I don't think Trump or his campaign was responsible for creating it, but they retweeted it. And when someone has 60 million followers, Larry, and they retweet something, it gets around.
No.
Which was basically montages of the Twin Towers coming down, then Representative Omar saying somebody did something, then people saying God bless America, whatever. It was supposed to be this fuck you to Omar and patriotic thing. What was interesting was that Omar, though, seemingly as the result of that tweet and video, got a ton of death threats, as you might expect. A lot of these MAGA assholes who took it upon themselves to tag on to beloved leader's tweet and basically threaten to kill her.
Beloved leader.
Yeah. So, but she was very concerned about it, and according to the terms of service of Twitter, she requested that Donald Trump be banned from Twitter and that the video that he posted be taken down because of it generating hate and abusive behavior and death threats and whatnot. Dorsey called it to say that he would not be taking down Trump's account and he would not be taking off would not be deleting the tweet, Larry.
Right.
Now, there's 2 points to this, and tell me what you think. The truth of the matter is that Twitter, along with Facebook, but especially Twitter, has become very, very sensitive to what they consider hate speech. Twitter goes to great pains to say we're not a government agency. We don't have to abide by the First Amendment. We're not interested in the First Amendment. What we're interested in is civil discussions and civil back and forth. We've been blocked by several people on Twitter. Our account, I've been suspended 2 or 3 times already. The Riot account, rather, has been suspended 2 or 3 times, possibly for calling Cher a cunt. I'm not sure. But anyway, you get my point. Twitter is not beholden to absolutist interpretations of the First Amendment the way we do.
Right.
So, the 2 questions I have for you. One, given their terms of service, should Trump be banned? Does this woman have a right? Does this congresswoman have a point in saying, look, he's posting stuff that's abusive, he's posting stuff that is inciting death threats against me, whether he intended to or not, it doesn't matter. He should be suspended. He should be taken down. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's ridiculous. I don't think Twitter should ban anybody, especially upon request.
But they do that.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think they should do it. It's my opinion. My opinion is that, look, I don't like this stuff, but as long as you're going to be on Twitter, look, if Donald Trump wants to tweet something, he can tweet something. I understand he's the president, and it would be nicer if he was more like a president and statesman-like, and not like a child, tweeting like, you're stupid, or saying that Joe Biden is Sleepy Joe, and like all these stupid things that he engages in. But look, if he tweets something, that's his right. She can tweet back at him. As far as the death threats, well, first off, she was already getting death threats because in the past she's made remarks about Israel, remarks that were considered anti-Semitic. So she's already getting death threats. So that's it. First off, you cannot lay that all off on stupid Trump. You can't. As far as Twitter's policy, I actually didn't know that they don't care about the First Amendment until he just said so. Okay. So, I do. And if Donald Trump wants to say something, he can say it. If Representative Omar wants to say something, she can say something. If she wants to say something stupid, like something happened on 9/11, which is beyond stupid to me, as someone who lived very near it when it happened, I can't believe these people. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, let it all go. If he wants to say something, let him say something. If she wants to say something, let her say something. I don't care what they say because they're both idiots. But as far as banning, I'm not in favor of banning, censoring, or whatever. I think that doesn't work.
I agree with you.
And it's not a solution.
Yeah, I'm not either. I don't agree in shutting people up. But within the context of Twitter, it's an interesting dilemma, and I'll tell you why. They've kicked people off, like Alex Jones. They've kicked him off the platform. Mm-hmm. Alex Jones is not allowed to tweet anymore. They kicked off Gavin McInnes.
Right.
McInnes, rather. Again, not something that I agree with. But, again, keeping in mind, Twitter is a private company.
Right.
Twitter does not have to follow the First Amendment. I wish they would. If I started a company, you can damn well bet I wouldn't be censoring people, right? But it's their right to censor, just the same way Facebook does. Within that context, you might say, well, Trump violates their terms of agreement 5 times a day without
breaking a sweat.
Without breaking a sweat. Yeah. He calls people stupid and slow and sleepy and dopey, right? And I do too, for that matter. It's just that nobody cares to report me just yet. So maybe Trump should be banned, but here's the other problem. Trump, being the president, if he communicates strictly through Twitter, it's a very sticky situation, because how do you ban the president from communicating with the people? Right. That would be as if, look, TV stations are privately owned. What if they decided to all not carry Trump's speeches? Some of them have. Some of them have decided not to. Done that. Right? But what if all of them decided not to? What if all the broadcast networks refused to, and only cable? See, then I think you might have a problem. Because then you could argue, and I think some of this went in the reverse order to the Supreme Court, which was, then you're preventing the Americans from hearing from their president. You're stifling political speech, in essence. Mm-hmm. So is Twitter, for example, I think it was ruled that Trump can't block anybody from following him on Twitter. Because then he's censoring political speech.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because like, let's say he decided to ban me for calling him an asshole, which I do on a normal basis, on a regular basis, right? Then he's censoring my free political speech, even though it's a private company.
Right.
So it's a little bit. So I agree with Jack Dorsey that he shouldn't be censoring Trump, but only because Trump's the president.
Right.
Like if it was Joe Blow, he would have to ban him the way he's banned other people. Honestly, for lesser offenses. Gavin McInnes got banned for calling trans people mentally ill. Now, you may not agree with that if you're a liberal, and Twitter, by the way, makes no bones about it. They're all liberal. They've said it. And they're in Silicon Valley, full of liberals. So they admit they're in the liberal bubble, and I think one of the things they're trying to do is to break out of that a little bit. But the truth of the matter is they've banned largely conservatives as opposed to liberals. Antifa has not been banned by Twitter, believe it or not. And Antifa regularly posts where they will be to cause violence.
Right.
Like, we're going here to bust up the Proud Boys or whatever. So there has been these documented cases. Tim Pool did a good job of it. Joe Rogan did a good job of it, of showing these cases. Had Twitter on to defend themselves, and they can't. They just say, look, we're a private company, we're doing our best, but we don't have to be even-handed. We don't have to be fair.
Yeah.
But with the president, I think it's a little bit different. I think the president, they kind of have to broadcast him, or else it is stifling. It's weird. It's one of those new areas where private and public are overlapping, and you don't quite know which way the protections break, Larry. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand,
like
but I don't think they should be banning or censoring anyone.
I agree. They should.
I mean, look, again, I don't like this stuff, but if I were running Twitter, if I were Dorsey, I would say, look, this is our platform. This is what we do. This is what's great about democracy.
Yeah.
I would reiterate that your commitment to the First Amendment, and just let people say what they want. But we've talked about this before. I always said, if I had a TV show and I was hosting a political show, I get my Republican, I get my Democrat, I get a conservative, I get a liberal, I get a Klansman, I get a revolutionary Communist Party asshole, I get an Antifa douche, I get a neo-Nazi, and I get them all around a table and just have at it.
Right.
And a Libertarian and a Reform Party and an Independent Party.
On guard.
And what's that?
On guard.
On guard. And the Flat Earth Society, whoever's got a point of view, I want to hear your point of view. That's how I'm a person, I grew up, I'm not offended by anybody. Unless your entire point in life is just to insult people. But going on the assumption that you want to have intelligent discourse, like this show, okay?
Semi-intelligent.
Despite what the New York Times thinks. To me, that's the way to do it. I always talk about Michael Douglas and that stupid American President movie. But at the end, he says something which is really great. He goes, let me see you stand next to somebody who says something that makes your blood boil and defend their right to say it. He goes, that's what it's about. And that's in the movie. And he's supposed to be Mr. fucking left-wing Democrat in the movie. He goes, let me see you do that. He goes, that's what it's about. And that is what it's about. Okay? Like, I actually don't want to be around like a Klansman or a communist or an Antifa asshole, but you know what? I'll listen to them. I don't care. The only problem with radicals, and I've met some of them, the only problem with it is they smell like shit. That's the only thing. These people don't fucking bathe. They don't. They don't. I remember, I told you one time I was watching ABC, and they had that guy Richard Spencer on, who's the white supremacist guy, and he had this woman on, Susan McDonald or something. She was from Antifa. And the one thing he said was really funny. He starts off, he goes, you know what the problem was in Charlottesville? He goes, as soon as I got within 10 yards of the Antifa, he goes, I could smell them. There was like a wall of perspiration. I know he's an asshole, okay? And he got punched out in some other video. But you know what? That's absolutely true. I've met people from these organizations. That's part of their thing, to show how uncomfortable they are with society. So they don't bathe, they don't do their laundry, the women don't wear makeup, they smell, they're disheveled, they look like homeless fucking people. That's the only problem with radicals. Other than that, I can listen to, I watched online, just going off on a little tangent here, the guy who runs the Revolutionary Communist Party, Bob Avakian. It's this old gypsy asshole. He's from California. He's from the Bay Area. He's been running this group since the 70s. I've actually read a couple of his books. I'm putting that out there. I mean, on the other hand, see, the kind of person I am, I've also read the Turner Diaries, which is a white supremacist, how to get rid of everybody who isn't white book. You read these things, you realize that the people who write them, But my idea, if I was running Twitter, I would just make it a free-for-all. I know it's sad that some people take the opportunity to start making death threats and doing things, but you know what? She's not without protection. She can call the FBI and tell, look, here are the threats, here specifically, you can trace this, and they'll look into it for you. They'll take it seriously. So, I mean, she's not totally vulnerable, especially since 99% of them are usually people just blowing off steam and saying stupid shit. Like, for instance, she hasn't been attacked or anything since it's happened. I certainly hope that does not happen. But the point is, usually it's just people, you're a fucking blah, blah, blah. It's that whole...
Well, part of it is being put in the public eye. Part of it is being controversial. And look, on her part, obviously, she wanted to just stick it to Trump somehow, and she thought this might be a way of doing it. But, interestingly. Okay, good enough. Now, Larry, to wrap up the show like we always do, it's that time for your segment in the show, because, again, Phil wants segments. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Larry's Douche of the Week.
My douchebag of the week is a young lady who used to, at one point, maybe even be America's sweetheart, John. It's Alyssa Milano. Which I hate to say this because she's from the tribe, but you know what? Look, we all know that everybody in Hollywood, almost everybody in Hollywood, some manner of left-wing asshole. Sean Penn, Michael Moore, Alec Baldwin, you've all heard their comments. You all hear them. Okay. Unfortunately, in the past couple of years, Alyssa Milano has decided to become a woke person, okay, which is an idiotic expression, compliments of the black community, which is to stay woke. And if you're woke, it means you care about social justice and racial issues and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So Alyssa Milano has now taken it upon herself. She tweeted she has a platform so she can address the issues that are plaguing humanity, which she put humanity all in caps. Very good, Alyssa. Okay, she's come a long way from being a teenage idiot on Who's the Boss. Right. Okay, so the problem I have with Alyssa here is, first, she's doing that. Now she's got some podcasts called Sorry Not Sorry. Okay, and she made a name for herself. She got a lot of attention. She showed up at the Kavanaugh hearings when he was being put up for the Supreme Court, right? And she's sitting behind him and she's making faces, she's tweeting like the idiots. Okay, and what drives me nuts is she's going after. She doesn't know a thing about this guy. Let's face it, nobody does. I have some vague knowledge because I know somebody who knows him, but she's like talking authoritatively and saying, well, we have to believe the victims, and she's big in the Me Too movement and all this. So now Alyssa, she goes after him. Now look what she's saying about this guy. That he's definitely he's a pervert and he's this. She thinks he's like a sexual predator. So she's going after him. She also then, right around the same time, said the MAGA hats. No, I would agree. Walking around with a hat that says "Make America Great Again." Not my fashion statement, but if you want to wear it, fuck you, you can wear it, right? She decided to say it's the new white hood. Okay, which is beyond stupid, but typical of what I expect from somebody from Hollywood. Because talk about living in a bubble, for God's sakes. So now she comes out the other day, and she is a big supporter of Joe Biden.
Ooh.
Okay, this is it. She's supporting him for president. Now, what really set me off as the cherry on the cake for her douchebagginess, okay,
Larry, I believe it's douchebaggery.
Douchebaggery whore, okay, is super homosexual of the future, George Takei, who played Sulu on Star Trek.
Nice.
He tweeted out, please don't attack any of the Democrat candidates. He put that because we want to have a strong candidate against Donald Trump. She retweeted it and said, I agree, we should not attack the Democrat candidates. Let them play it out. Don't speak negatively of them. Will you do it too? Now, of her followers, they went after her and said, that's ridiculous. This is what the primaries are for. They beat up on each other. You have to ask them questions. You have to go after them. Now, she claims that she gets hostile tweets and stuff from Trump supporters. She claims that she got a lot of hostile tweets from Bernie supporters. But then some group online went into her, looked at her account, and they really couldn't find many comments from Bernie supporters. So it actually seems like she may have lied or exaggerated it. But what's really annoying about it is it's the Kavanaugh thing, the MAGA hats, those white kids from the Catholic school that had the Indian guy banging the drum. She went after them, saying white boys who can't empathize with other people and all this. And now, for the finale, she's going to support creepy Joe Biden, rubbing women's shoulders and all that. Like I'm dying to know how she rationalized supporting him, but she thinks Donald Trump is a pig with women. Right. And now, even worse, with George Takei, she doesn't want anybody to criticize any of the Democrat candidates because she wants them to be as strong as possible to defeat Donald Trump in 2020. So I'm looking at just like the whole list of it. And then that even her own supporters were like, no, that's ridiculous. One guy said, look at Little Miss Woke. Like trying to be like...
Hey, that was me.
Oh, was that you? Okay, I didn't notice it said that Riot show. But unfortunately, Alyssa, you are the douchebag of the week going away. Stop being stupid. I hope your podcast fails.
And just show us your tits.
Yes.
That's all we want.
Just show the ass. You know.
A's.
You know who's the boss. You're charmed.
All right, well, Larry, that was a very impassioned douchebag of the week.
Yeah, it's very annoying. They're so stupid.
Annoying broads, right?
Yeah, annoying left-wing broads. You're so... You don't know anything. Shut up.
All right, well, that was a good douchebag of the week.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
All right. Phil. All right, so I think with that, ending it on a high note, let's remind everyone that we will be here again next week, so make sure to join us for that. But until that time, this has been your host, Big Fat John.
And Judo Larry.
Peace, bitches.